Hello, Paul Valencia here from Clark County today. Tony Liberatore from Vancouver Public Schools and Fort Vancouver High School.
Hello, loyal listeners.
And Cale Piland from Evergreen Public Schools, the AD.
Glad to be here.
Hey, Cale, how you doing? We are the, I don't know what we are. Well, they're sports experts, but they don't like to be called experts, but they are. They really are. They're administrative experts. I'm just a journalist who's been around for many, many years, as many of you know. But hey, this week we are going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? Seeding for state football playoffs, the seeds that are coming up for week 11, which is the first week of state football. We'll talk about how the seeding process works. Someone who knows the ins and outs, even if they haven't been part of the seeding committees for football, they know how it works. That's what Cale can do. But we're also going to talk about week 10 games and the future of football playoffs. Expansion of state playoffs? Question mark. Yeah, I have a strong opinion. The others might as well. And of course, we'll talk some pro sports, maybe some college sports. And I have a fun personal sports story to share with you toward the end of this podcast. But anyway, Cale, Tony, welcome. It's high school football. It's November. It's playoff season.
Playoff time. Yeah.
Paul's favorite time of year.
It is. It is my favorite time of year. It really is. But I am not a big fan of week 10. And before we get into seeds for week 11, we're recording this, on November 8th. So it's between week 10 and week 11. State playoffs begin week 11. We have plenty to talk about there. But first of all, the scores of week 10 say it all. I'm not going to go through every score, but we'll just take the top 5 seeds. 63-15 for, this is Graham Capelson won in week 10. And they played a 1-8 team in that game. 54-0 Lake Stevens beat Olympia. Camas 56-7 over Federal Way. East Lake 56-7 over Kentwood. Our another Clark County team, Skyview, defeated Bethel 49-21. That's one of the close games, 49-21.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, same stuff with 3A. I'm going to go to the 3A. Yelm beat Kent Meridian 60-0. O'Day 56-0. Arlington 54-13. You know what? I said O'Day. I had the wrong name here, but it was just bad. It was just bad all over. All these scores are bad. And I just wanted to ask, we've heard people say we need to expand the state playoffs to bring more teams in. I see these scores and I'm like, no, we don't. Cale, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen, I don't know, within the last 5 years, maybe 10, just a widening of the gap between the elite teams within the state and teams that are just pretty good. I used to, because I have experience when I was coaching both 3A and 4A. And people would always ask me what the difference was. And I said, well, when you get to the final 8, there really was no difference. Mm-hmm. The difference at that time was you could get some really competitive week 10 games at the 4A level. And at the 3A level, we still kind of had this problem of kind of the wider gap. But I don't know. I don't know really what the solution is, because I don't think you want to be shrinking high school playoffs at this point. But the scores there, don't lie. Now, the question that I would have is if we did a quote-unquote week 10, so if we did 32 for basketball, I think you'd probably see a lot of the same things happening with the top teams and the rest of the people that would be involved in that.
Absolutely, you'd have that. And we also know in girls basketball it'd even be worse.
Yes, it would, because
there's a bigger gap between the haves and have-nots in girls and women's sports. If we go into college, there's a bigger. And now the gap is getting tighter in college sports. There's more teams that can win it all in college women's basketball. It's a great sport.
No,
but
it used to be when you looked at the women's tournament, there was only like maybe three teams who could win it. And now
early on it was Tennessee.
Right. Yeah.
It was UConn, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
now
there's
a bunch of great teams.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But as far as high school football in our state, it just seems to. It keeps widening. Tony, what your thoughts on that?
Well, and so how do we balance what Kel said? You want to give the opportunities for the kids, but, and no offense to Kamiak, but why are a 1-9 team in week 10?
Yeah.
Right.
So there's got to be, and I don't know do we do a different bracket? And do we have qualifications to make Week 10? But then that kind of takes the whole,
Right.
That's a lot of logistics that we're not going to do.
And we've talked about scheduling in general, just high school scheduling, and made the comment on this podcast many times that football scheduling is its own beast. It's different. You can talk about non-league crossovers in virtually any sport, but football becomes it's just a different topic because of the physical nature of the game. And it leads to the question: do we need to look at classification differently to put these elite teams? Does Eastside Catholic football belong in a 3A classification? Right. They could play with anybody in the state,
and at times anybody in the country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and even down to the 2As. I mean, Tumwater has a long. Right. There are many Tumwater teams that if they had been a 4A team, they might have been in the state championship, would have had a chance to win a state title. So I don't know what the answer is.
A few years ago, Archbishop Murphy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 2A school would have probably been the best team in the state. So anyway, just for the 4A Week 10 games, the average score was 44-16. There were 4 close games. 2 others that might have been close, but the score got away at the end. I wasn't there, so I don't know when those scores happened. But only, quote, 2 upsets based on records. And I hate saying upsets in high school sport, but I'm just based on records, 2 teams that did it. So, I'm going to go back to, never mind. Then in 3A, it was actually worse. It was 44-10, and I couldn't find any close game. The closest game was a 14-point game. That was Mountain View, Edmonds Woodway. We were there at that game. All 3 of us were at that game. And it was great. Mountain View actually trailed by 14 at halftime. So in that regard, it's a close game. But then Mountain View scored 35 in a row, and it was a blowout, even though it wasn't a blowout. If that makes sense.
It was a very weird feeling halftime score because you felt like Mountain View had kind of dominated the game, but somehow was down 21-7 because of penalties and turnovers and whatnot. So
right.
That score is definitely not as close as the naked eye for folks that watched that game.
Right. But of all the 16 scores I found for Class 3A football, that was the closest game. And so I think that just tells us that we can't be expanding state playoffs because, oh my gosh, these games they're not competitive right now.
No,
Tony?
Yeah, I agree. And I go back to the Mountain View game as being, a close one. And I'm wondering, and I know that they seed them, and I was never part of a seeding committee, but how can we take that game as a template? Mountain View made mistakes, but Edmonds was in the game.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, that's kind of what you expect from a Week 10 game is what I'm getting at. So I don't know. And
then our 2A, I'll just go locally, our local 2A and 1A. Woodland League champion 2A GSHL beat Rochester 33-8. While Schugle, which got the 2 seed, got a home win 35-21. That was a close game, I think, until the end. Hudson's Bay lost 35-14. Ridgefield lost to Tumwater 55-13. Well, everyone's losing to Tumwater 55-13, whatever. So. But then in the 1A, La Center won 50-7 and Seton Catholic won 51-7. Again, these are playoff games, and so and these are not even considered state. So that's why I'm wondering. I'm going to throw this out there. I didn't like this idea last year when Oregon did this, but for their big schools, they have 2 tournaments. They have a state championship. They have, I think, 16 teams play for the state championship, and then they have 16 teams play for we're number 17. It's like the NIT of college basketball. Yes. Oh, we're number 66 or whatever it is. But
I don't know if I'd want to.
I don't know if I want that. But I'm just saying that if we're going to expand playoffs, I think we have to look into something like that so that there's some competitive balance. I'm not saying we have to, but if expansion is happening, that's the only way it can work, in my opinion, in football.
Well, I don't think expansion's happening, to be honest with you. I don't feel that there's a groundswell of support for that within the state. In fact, I think you would see what when I talk about football, and I don't have any source on this saying that this is even a real conversation, but I think you would see a different classification system for football before you would see a playoff expansion with our current scenario, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Kel, do you think we could do something? I was looking at the possible college football 6+6 bracket and give, like, say, I mean, in that bracket, the top 4 have buys.
Yeah.
Would the WIAA ever do something like, say, seed them and, 1 through 4, you're not playing till week 11?
I don't know. Because the problem is the WIAA doesn't seed week 10.
Right.
That's true. That's the
districts do that. They do that on our own,
Mm-hmm.
and
that's relatively new. That's only a couple of years, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not week 10 has always been up for the district. The districts have always determined that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
What has been relatively new is, at least within the 3As and the 4As, is there's a seating committee for week 10. Mm-hmm. That is new, and I think for that committee, that's really challenging because you're seeding through 32. So it's one thing when you're looking at the week 11 bracket or the first round of state when 15. What's the real difference here between 14, 15, and 16? When you're trying to decipher the difference between even 22 to 32, that there may not be a large gap there. So determining who 30. I mean, again, this is kind of Oregon, right? You're talking 32 versus 1. I mean, 32 basically has no chance in that game.
Right.
But determining who that number 32 is going to be versus 25, I think you're splitting hairs at that point.
Number 1 Yelm won 60-0. Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 1 Graham Kapowson won 63-15.
Yeah.
So I mean, whoever it is from 25 to 32, they're all losing that game by that score.
And great. You qualified for week 10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd be interested to talk to those coaches. Would you rather have been in another bracket where you're 32 and you're playing 17? Right now. But when I see these scores, I think yes, but I know it goes against everything that I've ever been a part of too. I know it's weird. When it brings up a different conundrum, would you rather be 15 or 16, or do you rather be 17 or 18?
Make a little run and get 3 more weeks.
15, 16, you probably don't really have much of a chance of winning either.
True.
But so would you rather be in the quote unquote winners bracket, or would you rather be 17, 18 and have a chance to win the whatever you
high
want to call
school
it
NIT,
bracket?
high school NIT.
It's the NIT.
I don't know. And I never. If you would ask me this 10 years ago, no way, that's stupid. I would not even entertain this idea. But because I've seen enough football where it's the haves and the have-nots, and it just gets wider. It's not getting closer. It's awesome when a team like Woodland wins a league title when no one thought that was coming. It's great that Battleground went 7-2 before losing week 10 to go to 7-3. But there's hope there. It's great that it happens, but there are fewer of those stories now. And when I went to high school, I know 100 years ago, and I'm shouting I'm yelling at clouds and all this stuff.
Leather helmets.
When I'm at, you could, a team could go on a run. A team could lose a couple of regular season games, but still get some magic in the playoffs and do this. Now, and that's a good transition, I guess, in going into week 11 for state playoffs and the seeds. When I was looking at these 4A scores and I was looking at all the records, oh my gosh, this is wide open. There's a team with 3 losses, but the losses are Emerald Ridge. I'll just say they have 2 losses, but they lost to Curtis and Graham Kapowson. And Graham's number 1, and Curtis is number 6, I think, or 7.
Right.
And Emerald Ridge scored in the 30s in both of those games. I mean, so their defense struggled, but holy cow! And there's a couple of other teams that
they beat a good team in week 10. Bothell.
Right.
Yeah.
And so exactly. And then there's another one where they lost 3 close losses, but all to state playoff teams that are seated higher than them right now. And that was Sumner, which I think is seated, looks like 13 or something like that, 12 or 13. I'm wondering, is this going to be a great 4A tournament where maybe a 10, 11, or 12 can make a run?
Well, you don't really know. And it's the thing with football is until you get outside of your league, it's hard to you could be 6-3, but if you're in a really good league and those 3 losses, like you said, are two really good teams, I think because we hand seed this now, I would venture to guess coaches look at their non-conference schedules differently than Tony we did when we were still coaching, because when we were coaching, there was no hand seeding of the bracket. You knew exactly where
we were playing the
GSHL 1 was going into the bracket and how many home games you were going to get. And all I was concerned about as a coach was winning the league. right? So I wanted the number 1 seed because I knew exactly where I was going to get seeded, and it was going to be a good seed. So I looked at our non-conference schedule as, all right, I don't want to see these type of teams. I don't want to wait until week 10 or 11 to see these teams. I want to see them early. So I was very aggressive in how we would schedule, because the biggest thing in football, when you really look at yes, there's a physicality that's different, but the really good teams, even against the very good teams, the difference is the speed at which they play. Mm-hmm. Right. So the team that's going to win the state championship is probably going to play faster than any other team in the state. And so if your kids have not been exposed to playing the game, what it looks like to play the game at that speed, because they're only practicing against themselves, and if the league really isn't that good, that can cause you problems. Right. So what I don't know now is, because we hand seed this, so you have to have – your record does matter now. So am I going to avoid those games so I can be 8-1, 9-1, so I get a better seed?
So go back to that, but let's apply that to Mountain View then, because I think this is a good test case.
Okay.
Because I saw them play 3 times this year and dominated.
Right.
Well, okay, the playoff game maybe not dominated, but okay.
I think when you
I mean they second half
they scored 5 touchdowns in a row. That's dominating.
They were clearly the better team.
Yeah. So and I thought that they kind of got a bad seat. Okay. And to Cale's credit, he said they're not probably going to get a home game.
Yeah.
You knew that going in.
Well,
what I'm wondering, so here's my question. If Mountain View is the template for what you're saying, clearly the seeding committee did not think the GSHL 3A was that strong.
Correct.
Because Kelso was the second, I'm sure. And then Mountain View's loss this year is against 1A
school.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they went out and tried to find somebody. Nooksack Valley is good. I don't know where they were seated in the 1A, but I'm sure they're top 4 or 5. Yep. And they beat Mountain View, close game. And so, but that hurt Mountain View, essentially.
It did.
Because I thought for sure they'd be a top 8.
Right. And they also went to overtime against Kelso.
They did.
Okay. And, so that matters. And because it's human beings, it's not a computer just going, oh, they beat Kelso.
Right. And nothing against Kelso, but they had a losing record. Mm-hmm. So when you're second place,
3-6 or something?
When your second place team has a losing, we were talking about a 1-8 team qualifying. Mm-hmm. So that when you're in the seating committee, again, you're looking at that and going, the second best team in the league was 3-6. And they almost beat the number 1 team.
Right.
So those things play in the case now. But Mountain View also had a really good win against Richland. Right. Who's in the postseason, and I don't know if Hanford qualified either, but so I think Mountain View did the best they could to try to build a resume, but the fact of the matter is, when you looked at the strength of the league based on record and who had won outside of the league and whatnot, it didn't bode well for them.
Right. Sure. Here's another one. For years, if you won the league title, the 4A GSHL, you knew where you were slotted for the week 10.
Yep.
And if you were the league champion, you were going to get a bad team, and that's why we went like 15 years without losing the game. But last year, Camas won the league title, but had a 5-4 record.
Yep.
Because they had a very difficult non-league schedule, and it was not the best Camas team that they've had. But they still won the league. But then after Human being seeded week 10, they lost week 10, and that just hasn't happened for us. But what you're saying is that schedule matters now.
It does, but that speaks to the other side of it, right? So as a seeding committee, you needed to really look at that. Yes, it's a 5-4 record, but I don't know what they'd lost to Jesuit, Central Catholic,
or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, so they had lost to these powerhouse schools, and I don't think they got enough credit for it. So yes, exactly to my point, Paul, is that I think coaches maybe steer away from that a little bit, but does that have your team as prepared as possible by the time you get to week 9 and week 10, because you really need to play good competition to get your kids to really believe it. You can get a false sense of security beating teams that aren't very good, to be honest with you.
Exactly. I'm going to transition into other seeding, another league, Trico. I was a little surprised that La Center got an 8.
Yeah, I was surprised.
10-0 or 10-0 La Center getting 8, and La Center's had some really good runs. Everyone knows La Center's a good football program in Class 1A. I expected 5 or 6, maybe whatever, but I It's one of those rare instances where I sounded smart last week. I was in the press box at Seton Catholic because it was pouring. It was like a hurricane rain on Friday night for week 10. And I was in the press box, and, the Seton Catholic people were all excited. And, the Center's winning. They're winning. So they're thinking, well, they only lost by 1 point to La Center.
Sure,
so if La Center's a 5 or 6, they have a chance at a top 8 and getting a home game in state. Well, they ended up getting the 12 seed, I believe. But I had told them, I said, here's the thing. Because they were talking about the RPI, and I'm going to get into the RPI in a second. I said, RPI is bad. Don't worry about the RPI. But also, it's human beings on a selection committee, and I ventured to guess that half the people on that selection committee for 1A don't know what Seton Catholic is, where they're from, and any of that, other than their record, and they're in the Trico League, which, other than La Center, hasn't done great in state.
Right.
And so it is human beings, and I do think they take the history, and no one knows. There is no Seton Catholic history. This is the first time they've ever gone to state.
Yep.
So I said, do not be surprised if you are not, a top 8 seed. And then once La Center got 8, and they're the league champion, and we knew Seton was not going to get, obviously, ahead of La Center. But anyway, I felt smart because I told them, don't look at RPI, because RPI had them higher, and that's what I think the WIAA does a kind of a disservice by posting the RPI every week, and I know why they do it. They've told me why. They just want to get a discussion out there. Here's one computer spitting out numbers.
Sure.
But the three of us and all the people in this, who really know, RPI might be the last thing that people take a look at, right? There's
as far as the seating committee is concerned,
when the seating committee, it's the last thing they look at.
Especially for football. Especially for football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wish the WIAA would use another system that maybe, there's that Evans rankings. He's great. You got maybe a Max Preps might have a rankings, and then it's also just eyeballs. And all these coaches who are on the seating committees or ADs, they're supposed to be looking at huddle and looking at teams, and they certainly know the teams in their league, and they're trying to pitch here's why. But history comes into it, and that's why I think Seton Catholic was hit. They have zero history. So
yeah.
But I felt bad for the Seton Catholic fans who were looking at RPI and going, hey, I think we have a shot at a home game.
So at the risk of, I guess sounding like the get off my lawn guy.
That's me.
I was not a proponent of seating committees when they started coming through, and it was not driven from football. It was driven from basketball.
Yes.
Right.
And the problem, and I still even have a problem with this in basketball, because you have people on these seating committees, like Paul, you said, are supposed to have seen or watched this or watched that. You have people giving opinions and placing teams, and they're part of that process, who have never ever seen that team play. And even if, and any football coach worth their weight will tell you this, that it is like if there was ever a chance for us to go watch somebody in person, and then obviously we would get the video so we could go back and really look at scheme and whatnot. It's harder to determine how good, what the talent level is, just if you're watching video. But now if you see a team in person, you can, especially if you're on the sideline and you can really feel how fast it is and how physical it is, you can get that impression pretty quick. Right. And we have people making these decisions who nobody's done that. And so I guess again, it's seeming like the old timer, but I appreciated if I knew if I was a league champ, I was at least going to get one home game in the round of 16 if I won in week 10, and then it just rotates through, because we also see there are massive swings within the state as to who is good and what leagues are good and what leagues play at certain levels. I mean, there was a time in the state where you did not want anybody from the North Puget Sound League. Right, that it was the bar was set there, and that's not the case anymore. And right. same thing at times. You didn't want anybody from the Big Nine. There was times where you wanted somebody from the Greater St. Helens League because the league wasn't very good. But it's cyclical. Things change, and just like you said, Paul, it's based off it. Seton Catholic might be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the state, but they don't have the history to back that up. Whereas and I think Camas and Skyview were both deserving of the seeds they got, but there's history there. So when the seating committee and you're sitting in that meeting and you're talking about a Skyview, people know that name. They can think historically about some teams that they've had, and it makes sense. But yeah, if you're the 1A rep from the Greater St. Helens League and you're trying to, or the Trico League, and you're trying to sell Seton Catholic to a bunch of people who don't even know where the school is,
right?
That's tough.
That is tough.
I believe that happened. But hey, if Seton Catholic wins Friday or Saturday, whenever they're playing, I think they play Saturday. But if Seton Catholic wins, that puts them on the map.
Absolutely.
And then that'll help for next year because they've got a very young team. Only one senior on that Seton Catholic team.
Wow,
that's just crazy. So they're here to stay. So they'll make a name for themselves eventually. And then we go into the seedings. We got Camas got a 3 seed and Skyview's number 5.
Yep.
So I can't really argue with any of that. I think Camas deserved a top
especially
4.
the top 2 teams there, right? I mean, I get that.
And I wasn't part of that meeting, but I'm guessing they also wanted to try to keep Skyview and Camas on opposite ends of the bracket, so they wouldn't match in the semifinals.
Right. Yeah. I have to admit, I kind of wanted that to happen.
Me too. I did too.
I wanted to.
Oh, yeah, because we would have hosted it at McKenzie.
It would have been at McKenzie,
and we'd had the fire marshal there and everybody because it would have been the biggest crowd ever in the history of the stadium. For sure.
I think so because Camas has a great crowd. Whenever they play in Clark County,
well, and everybody from Skyview would have wanted to be there, Paul, to show you up because you just keep doubting the Storm.
Thanks a lot, Cale. I do not doubt the Storm. I think they can beat anybody on the schedule this year.
Just not Camas.
But hey, if there is such a thing as a jinx, how about ending a jinx in the state championship
at Husky
game?
Stadium?
Yeah,
I'm sure Coach Kaiser would love nothing more.
That would be pretty sweet.
I'll be honest, I haven't even looked. That's where they would meet, right?
They would be there on opposite. They
can't even meet. They can't even meet in the semis, right? I got it. So I'm looking at the 4A. I think, of course, I think Camas is going to win. This week, which would be week 11, first round of state, and I think Skyview is going to win. Of course, I think that they're seeded 3 and 5. After that, anything can happen in this 4A, and technically anything can happen in week 1 of the state playoff. But I think I really do believe they could make it all the way. But they could go to the finals. I think they're that good, and but I also think there's 5 or 6, 7, 8 teams in the 4A that can beat you at any time. So it's going to be a great tournament. It's not like the 3A tournament for years where we just said, it's going to be this team and this team.
Yeah, when you look at their losses, right? Camas has 1 loss, and it's to the number 1 overall seed in the 3A bracket.
Right.
And by 1 point.
Yeah, and Skyview has 1 loss, and it's to Camas.
Right.
So,
and that loss to Yelm, they held Yelm to 1 touchdown, 8 points. It was 8-7, and I think Yelm has scored 50 in all the other
every
games.
other game.
Yeah, so it tells you how great Camas defense is, and because of that defense, they'll be in every game. So even if their offense is struggling, they'll be in every game.
Yep.
And then Skyview, even though in that Camas Skyview game, Camas was in control the whole way, but it was still only quote 21-9. It's one fluke play the other way, and Skyview's back in it. So it's just one of those things that. If Skyview gets another chance, maybe it'll happen. But that's happened before. They've already met in the state playoffs once, and that was part of this long streak of things. And Skyview had a lead in the 4th quarter, I believe, and then didn't.
Let's hope that matchup happens because the podcast leading into the state championship game between Camas and Skyview would be pretty fun.
It would be fun for us. And Skyview Camas at Husky Stadium would be that would be.
Do you plan? Epic. Just curious. Do you plan on going up? And will you go regardless if there's a county team?
Will I go to Husky Stadium that week? I might. I might. There's no Raiders. The Raiders are on a bye, so I won't be.
I knew you had that checked out. That's why I'm asking.
but no. If we had even if the Raiders were playing on the next Sunday, if we had a Clark County team, I would be there. Of course, I'd be there. Yes, it's. And by the way, there's also a chance is La Center possibly. I mean, they're an 8th seed, but they're darn really. They're really good.
Are they in Seton on the opposite side of the brackets?
That I don't know.
8 and 12. I'd have to look in that. So but no, who knows? I 2A. Boy, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think Washougal or Woodland's going to go all the way to Husky Stadium.
No. Which one? Woodland's got to go to Clarkston.
Yeah. And by the way, that was speaking of seeding. They're a league champion, but they went to 8-2, and one of the losses was to a 2-7 team.
Yeah.
That didn't even make week 10. So I think that mattered. I think that's why they got a 9 seed. And so, but hey, Woodland, go stun the world, go win that first. Well, it's not a stunner if a 9 beats an 8, but
La Center and Seton would meet in the semis.
If they wouldn't that be cool? 12 versus 8 in the semis.
They got a good shot then.
That would be cool. So, but yeah, I'm also looking ahead at things. Both those teams are very young, so they both, whatever happens this year, their expectations are going to be through the roof next year, both La Center and Seton.
Oh, yeah, it'll be interesting to see because we're entering into a new classification. So it'll be a new scheduling cycle. So just because Seton hosted that game this year,
right,
doesn't mean that Seton wouldn't host that game again next year.
Oh,
right. Because
sometimes
it's a
that
new,
can happen.
because it's a new 2-year cycle with that.
Interesting. So, yeah, I love this time of year. My gosh, it's high school football, state playoffs finally. And but I'll go back to week 10. We had several home games, meaning in Clark County, and I went to the Seton Catholic game, and I told people because I can write this story no matter what happens, and I knew Seton Catholic was going to win, but the story was it was their first home playoff game for Seton Catholic, and that was awesome. So win or lose, that was a big deal. So, but every other game I said, no, I have no desire to go to these other week 10 games, especially on Friday or whatever, because, Camas was up. I think they might have scored 40 in the first half. I think it was 42-0 or something at halftime. I mean, it was just, the game was over immediately. And it's just, I can't stand, we're going full circle. I can't stand the week 10 games right now and don't know what the solution is right now, but if they do want to change it around to top 12 going one way and maybe 12 more for a secondary championship, or I don't know how they'll do it. But right now it's those games are not competitive. So, what else we got going on? We had
you want to talk about your Raiders?
Yeah, my Raiders. Oh, that was fun. A little shout out to Albert Alcantar. We know him very well, and he's a former athletic director of Vancouver Public Schools.
Yep.
And a wrestling expert and coach from was he Hudson's Bay
for a long time.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyway, he's now living in Vegas, and it seems like every day he's posting something else that he's going to, and he's just loving life down there. So I had an extra ticket because the Raiders gave me an extra ticket, they gave me upgraded 2 tickets to 100 level seats, but they also gave us pregame sideline passes. So Albert and I are on the sideline for the Raiders and Giants, and it was right after the Raiders made some changes. I'm not sure if you heard, but new coach, new GM, new offense coordinator, knew everything, and there was this great vibe. And as a Raider fan, I loved it. But I can tell you guys now, I'm not going to go into all the details, but this is kind of the thing I've been hinting before. I was nominated for Raiders Fan of the Year, and so I got I got a video taken of me. I was at Raiders headquarters in September, and it was fantastic. And my video that they're going to recognize me at a game is coming up this Sunday, November 12th, taking on the Jets. And so you'll have to go, I'm sure I'll put the video link on Twitter after the video is released, and I'll be asking, I think it's a vote, so please vote for me, even if you don't like the Raiders, if you like this
Paul,
podcast, if you like the passionate fans.
Not vote for Pedro, vote for Paul.
Yes, Paul.
But I don't know exactly how it works, but I promise you once the video is posted, I will know how it works, and I'll put it on my Twitter account. And but yeah, the Raiders have been giving me little gifts here all year long, and swag bags and seat upgrades. And now the video will be this Sunday against the Jets. And I'm actually petrified because I have not seen the video. It's like an hour-long process, but they're just going to make it a 3-minute video. So I hope they.
And you have no creative license over any of it. Yeah, it's just you're at their mercy.
Exactly.
Oh, the shoe's on the other foot,
yes.
Paul.
Yeah, and I am not good at ice. My wife and daughter were there in the background watching, and they said I did great. I feel like I was just a stumbling idiot and didn't. The Raiders. I'm at Raiders headquarters. I'm so happy. I love everyone. That's how I felt. I felt like I was 5 years old, and Santa Claus said, "You can pick the 10 best things you want."
Davis.
So I totally fanboyed out or fangirled out. I don't know what they call it, but I was a 12-year-old at a Taylor Swift concert. So that's
all right.
I was at Raiders headquarters.
Well, Paul, I can't imagine anybody especially anybody in Clark County that knows you and has worked with you, or I can't imagine there's anybody out there that wouldn't think that you would be worthy and deserving of. I can't remember the last time I saw you not wearing Raider swag of some sort.
Correct. I was going to say I don't remember.
Do you
either.
own like a shirt that isn't Raiders?
Oh, yeah.
Or a hat?
Like 5 days out of the year, I'll wear a Prince shirt on special Prince days. You know. But I still always wear a Raider hat.
Okay.
So I will not leave the house without something Raiders. That's true.
Okay.
And again, this is, I'm 52. Yeah, I'm 52. And this is a lifelong thing. I've been a fan my whole life. My parents had season tickets before I was born.
Well, then you should have been in the running to be the interim head coach, because apparently that's what qualifies somebody to be the interim head coach of the now Las Vegas Raiders.
That was that was a great press conference.
It was a great press conference.
Can I be like special teams coach?
Yes. If I get hired on staff, no.
I'll just be your get back coach.
I will say that the one thing I'm better than most NFL coaches, and I think most people agree if they watch a game with me, is time management. I am the time management.
You are a time management guru. I will give you that.
I am that, and it drives me insane.
Me too, and the people that I watch Seahawk games would probably say the same thing, and they would also agree, and I think lots of Seahawk fans would agree, Pete Carroll, if you're going to knock Pete Carroll, it is clock management. There's two things, clock management, and you always know if he challenges it, we're never going to win, and if he doesn't, we should have challenged it because we would have won.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, you guys... Are you? I haven't looked because the Niners didn't play, right? So they gained a half game on you, of course. But where are you still in first place? You have to be, right?
We're 5-3. We're 5-3, and the Niners are 5-3. And even though,
right,
I really don't want to talk about last Sunday. It was pretty ugly.
It was pretty ugly. It was pretty ugly. The Ravens are doing that to a lot of teams, though.
No, they did just do that to Detroit.
So are the Ravens right now the best team in the AFC? I don't know.
They look pretty
close.
Good. They're pretty good.
I know Kansas City. Kansas City's
struggling.
got the better record, but it seems like Kansas City is just getting by now. That's crazy because as a Raider fan, any win is a big win. Any win is a good win because we don't win much. But for Kansas City, they don't seem to be.
It feels like Kansas City's playing on borrowed time.
It's weird though, huh?
Yeah.
But they keep winning. So
and they have what you would maybe the best player in the league, obviously in Mahomes.
Yeah.
But quarterback in Baltimore, he's no slouch.
No,
he's healthy. And he looks good.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, every Raider fan, if we don't make the playoffs, which let's face it, it's going to be hard road to make the playoffs. But if we don't make the playoffs, we'll be rooting for Lamar. We'll be rooting for whoever's playing the Chiefs.
Right. Anybody but
unless it's Justin Herbert no, I said it wrong. No,
Justin Herbert.
So then you want both teams to lose.
Yeah, right? that one I want both teams to lose somehow. Yeah. Never want the Chargers to ever win a Super Bowl. That's the only thing we have on them right now. So
correct. That's fine though.
So, but anyway, no, So this has been. Yeah. Anyway, back to me personally. Yes, my passion for the Raiders. It's I never say I'm a bigger fan than anybody else. You love your Seahawks. I see your pictures, your family. You love them. You can't measure how much something loves. But yeah, I've got family, and football is family, and the Raiders are part of my family. Raider Nation is, and stuff like that. And it was kind of cool to be it's great to be recognized whether I win or not. And the next time we do the podcast, maybe I'll explain how it all happened, and I'll go into more details because my video hopefully will be released by then. That's the plan, as the video will be posted on Raiders.com.
That'll be good.
And we'll talk about that.
And we will vote multiple times.
I hope so. So thank you. Other than that, what do you got? Well, predictions. Will we have a team in playing in Husky Stadium this year?
A county team?
Yeah, yes. We don't. Yes, we got a yes.
I think so. Yes.
Yep. Okay. And we know who the candidates probably: Camas, Skyview, maybe even the center, and then I guess Seton if they are. Wow, I guess that's possible too if they go on a magical run as a 12 seed. But that'd be really cool if we're. Was that December 3rd? I think it is state championship, or December 2nd and 3rd because it's Friday and Saturday. That'd be really cool if we're working up there. So that's it for this podcast. Thanks a lot, and we'll chat with you in a couple of weeks.